Economics, you might say, is my day job. I'm also a musician. I started playing guitar in the 3rd grade. I gradually became interested over time in playing classical guitar. I discovered I could actually bridge the gap between instruments, and so I decided, well, why stop there? This is a modern American mandolin, where for a time it was the most popular instrument. It never has been a very loud instrument, and once concert halls got bigger or people wanted to dance, it died out. But then it became popular again. There now are a number of mandolin orchestras. I play in a group called the Providence Mandolin Orchestra.
So let's turn to Neponset Valley Suite. So, mandolas, guitars.
Mandolin has 4 courses, 8 strings. The strings are, though, tuned in unison, so they're actually the same note, they're just doubled. The mandolin like this is tuned like the violin, so G, D, A, E. These instruments are instruments where you have to play the note precisely. They don't have a margin for error. On the guitar, when you're playing, you try to keep your hand parallel and your fingers as perpendicular as possible to the fretboard. If you don't do that, you'll hear what you often hear when you hear guitarists play and the note, goes splat. The mandolin is proportionately more difficult in this regard because it's smaller, right? And if you can see as you go up, the frets get closer and closer together until you can hardly see the distance between them. So you have to imagine having to fit your finger in that distance and still making a clear sound. One of the things I like about the mandolin is it's just a challenge to try to make it sound beautiful. And on the mandolin, you can create the illusion of multiple lines through a technique called duo style, where you're doing this. And what I was doing there was I was playing a bass note like that. My pick was moving hopefully too fast for you to see, so you hear the illusion of the single line in the bass. It's called duo style. It's the mandolinist accompanying himself by playing the bass and the treble at the same time. But that's an illusion. That's not actually playing the notes at the same time. And so in the late 15th century, lutenists discovered that they could actually play 2 notes at the same time by plucking them at the same time. So what was essential to Renaissance music was the voice. In order to imitate voices that were interweaving in this counterpoint, you had to be able to pluck all those notes at the same time. The lute sort of took off at that point in some ways and became the most popular musical instrument during the Renaissance. I tend to think there are connections between what I do for a living, as an economics professor and playing music. There are elements of art in both. In economic history, you have to make connections. It's oftentimes between very disparate elements. You have to see the big picture. And in music, you have to do the same thing. There's a bunch of little notes on the page. It's like, a writer using letters, and you have to connect them on a micro level, so you have to connect one note to the next note. But then you have to see the whole picture of it.